This conference will now be recorded.
Okay,
right. Take it away.
10:22, we call the meeting to order. Who else is on the call? I'm Pam Birmingham.
I'm Leanne Thompson, your county commissioner, Pam.
I'm Victoria Sage, county planner.
I'm Julia Decker, planning manager, Clatsop County.
I'm Rob Ledgwood, co-compliance with Clatsop County.
And that's it, huh? Okay. All right. Next thing is review the meeting summaries. Reviewing the December 5th one seems so long ago. I'm glad we had that review in there because it really seems a long time ago.
Yeah.
Any comments on those from anybody? Okay. I guess Leanne, you're kind of public for public comment and input.
We're going to have a discussion at the County Board of Commissioners. It seemed to me that it made sense for the county commissioners to have an ex officio role on these. We're not really public, we're elected. I think we're still establishing procedures and sideboards for the interaction of board and staff and public and all of that, because we've got a new county manager. I say he walks on water on a regular basis, but we're changing the way Clatsop County has done business. And part of that, I think, is naming the role of your county commissioners who participate in these meetings. It made sense to me. County council agreed. Now the whole board has to talk about it. It's the regular county process. So in a way public, but really I think ex officio is how it's going to turn out. I'm not the boss of that. We'll see. Thank you, Pam.
Yes. Review of the Goal 5 worksheets. I haven't done a lot myself on that, so I apologize. Any comments from anyone?
Yeah, so
Okay.
what we were hoping to do is to just start working through the policies one by one. I sat in on the Northeast Citizen Advisory Committee last week, and they just sort of went through one by one, and kind of weeded some issues out and talked about what needed to be deleted. Very similar to what we did for the goals last time. So ultimately that is what we'd like to do, is just sort of turn the meetings over to really focusing down on policies and really focusing down on what the changes need to be made, because ultimately that's what we need to look at for this comp plan update. So that's really the goal, is to work on this part of it. So if either of you have had a chance or have any comments on any of these goals and policies, we could start talking about that now. So I'll turn the meeting back over.
I'm not familiar at all with the mining. It doesn't seem to be really a big thing in this county. I know there is some. So I don't have anything to weigh in on that. Do you, Leanne?
To my knowledge, Pam, thank you. There are no significant resources in play. We never know what the technology will turn into. And so that's, I mean, who would have contemplated fracking, for example? And I know that there are some places in the county where mineral rights have been purchased by, I would say, companies that might have an interest in exploiting those. I think the tension that I see between, if I could just generalize, is the environmental concerns versus the economic concerns. And the question is how to balance those so that we have a healthy economy and a healthy environment. these policies talk more about the healthy economy, the ones I can see 1, 2, and 3. Whether or not that wants to be continued, it remains. But Pam, what you said, I think is highly significant, and I think it hasn't been talked about to the extent it needs to be during these considerations, is the fact that there is a bundle of rights associated with property ownership. And I'm respectfully suggesting that staff consider how those bundle of rights are taken into account during the public input process. So that's, you triggered a significant phrase in my mind, Pam, and I don't have any further
Well,
comment on these particular policies.
along with that bundle of rights, one of it is the right to quiet enjoyment. And that's the part where you have, a mine operating next door to you and you have dust and noise all the time. So that these are bigger, these aren't drilling down on our goals right now. And I don't want to get too far off topic since my time is very limited on this call today. But yes, think about that, not only the bundle of rights, but the right to quiet enjoyment of your property and how what goes on next door or across the street will affect you. And I'm also thankful for this outdoor lighting ordinance. It's brilliant. It's wonderful. It's been a long time coming. So thank you, Leanne.
Well, it took some doing, didn't it?
Oh, so wonderful. Yes. One of the reasons I live out here is to have true darkness at night. So, yeah.
And the comment. I wonder, though, if we should move to the meeting dates if Pam has to leave in about 3.5 minutes or something.
Well, no, I can stretch it a bit. I don't have to go to my office before I go to the title company. I was just figuring that out. So I'd like to work through a little of this. So next is wetlands, right? If we're kind of glossing over mining, are we then into wetlands, Victoria?
We can do it however you want. I'll say, like, again, to reference Northeast CAC, they all decided that they didn't have the brain space to go into the quarry and mining stuff. So yeah, we can definitely just jump around to whatever whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know. I agree with them. I don't have enough experience or brain space for the mining. And I would hope that we have environmental protection laws in place enough that could govern any current or potential mining operations.
Pardon me, does Dogami have anything to say about that? Mineral
This
industry?
is Julia. I'm just going to jump in real fast here. Actually, we have a number of mines in Clatsop County. We actually have, if you look at Highway 202, it's lined, especially on the northern end, with basalt mining. We have actually, there are a number of mines and quarries. There's one out in Bradwood. There's one down the Knife River one down off the highway in towards below Seaside. And they are highly regulated by Dogami. And they're highly regulated. I've actually worked on a couple of projects when we did expansions. Those are always type 2As. And typically what they have been doing, the mines are already established, the quarries are already established. Typically what they are doing when they do an expansion is they're doing an expansion of their reclamation area that they are required by law to have. And so the reclamation area is where they put the spoils. And then after they're through with the whole mining operation, they have to return it to a natural state. So that reclamation area is kind of like a storage area for spoils, and then it all gets filled back in and then replanted. It's heavily regulated. So anyway, that's just my fast 1.5 minutes there.
Well, I appreciate that because that, I won't say takes us off the hook, but I don't see the need for any big changes there because we also have ODFW protecting the wildlife and habitats from mining effects is the word I was looking for. So are we then onto wetlands? I'm kind of lost here.
Hi, yeah, like I mentioned, we can jump
Okay.
around to whatever makes sense for you all. We're just here to take notes today.
Sorry, must admit that I've been so busy I haven't really reviewed this. So the long silences are me trying to catch up and do the homework I should have done prior to the meeting. All right.
Well, Madam Chair, if I may, when I look at these policies, this is Leanne here, the goals and policies seem to be very site specific in the code. I wonder if that's appropriate for a code at this level, or if it should be an addendum or an appendix or some other tangential kind of reference here. And I don't know, I guess that's for staff, huh?
Yeah, thanks, Leanne. That's the kind of, feedback that we're going to take to put in our recommendations. So.
Good, yeah. Because those will change over time, and this is either unduly restrictive or unduly specific. But to get at the sense of what's desired in a policy, I think, Pam, that's the conversation I've heard you lead a number of times.
Right.
It's a longer discussion.
It really is. And I'm glad that we have a quarry and mining zone, and that we're working with outside agencies that have more expertise than we do. So then to energy source policies.
So
Leanne,
Pam,
could I hold you up just for a second? That policy 3, that's the ham radio network, and under natural areas policies, that's the repeaters. So I would just flag for the committee's consideration the fact that they're an essential part of public safety network in Clatsop County is the ham radio network repeater system, and leave it at that. Because it's also policy 4. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And on that, Pam, are you recommending that we continue to work with outside agencies on these on these specific issues such as Dogami, DSL? Just trying to make a recommendation.
Yes, that
Okay.
we actively work with ODFW for sure because of the environmental impacts to fish and wildlife of any mining or quarry activity, and Dogami and the tribes. Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you.
So going down our worksheet, the next one I see are the energy sources policy. Is that where? Are you there, Leanne?
I can't move the screen, so I am wherever Tori has me be.
Oh, see, since I can't be on online, I'm on the phone, so I'm looking at my paper copy.
You have
of
more
the
direct
worksheet.
control, yeah.
I have the energy
Yes,
sources pulled up on the screen if everyone can see it.
okay. Development should not be allowed to impair. Julia or Victoria, do you want to give us a little background on like wind generating or hydro policies? I don't know much about those. Do we have any? Is anything pending?
Well, there's always somebody who's interested in hydroelectric. We get inquiries about that. We have actually somebody who's interested in doing a meteorological tower up on Wickiup Ridge for testing for doing wind turbines. But that's down the road. That's in the Northeast area. Most of the we've had interest in wave energy. I mean, people check us out for these things on a regular basis. And I would guess that it's, it depends, where the money is. I see Commissioner Thompson
Okay.
laughing, but she knows I'm right.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
what
to
it
put it more
usually boils
succinctly, accurately. Thank you, Julia.
down. And what zones currently are things like the wind gener? Obviously, I know where the wave generation is, but the land-based things such as large solar arrays or cell towers. I don't know if those come under this goal, but the wind generation. Are there specific zones those are allowed in, and specific zones like if you have an RA2, could you put up a windmill on your property?
Well, it kind of, I mean, a windmill, there's regulations for a windmill. Wind turbines are different. Most of the resource zones will allow as conditional uses those types of energy projects. So you'd see that in the F80 and the AF zones. EFU zones, I'm not quite so sure because those are really, really honed in on agriculture. I would have to look, but our big resource zones with the 80-acre minimum, those, and that's typically also where you're going to find the quarry and mining operations. I mean, we have a quarry mining zone. We also have a quarry mining overlay, but you can do quarrying and mining in the F80 zone, for example, or I think also the F80, or pardon me, the AF. So these sorts of
Okay.
resource type zones tend to be where you can do those kinds of energy projects as well. But everything's a conditional use for that type of thing.
Okay. So say in an F80, I'm just thinking of this south-facing ridge that was recently clear cut. And this may get back to Oregon Forest Practices Act, which it probably does. But in an F80, if they decided to not replant there and got permission from ODF and put in a big solar array to power Elsie, let's just say, would that be allowed, or that's a type 2 conditional use?
It's going to be a conditional use of some sort. It might be a 2A. It may require new standards. I mean, I haven't looked at that, so I can't really tell you. We have not had anybody come in looking to do a huge solar array like that, so I haven't investigated that. I'm sorry, I can't
Yeah. Okay.
really answer that. But if it's
Well,
not
no,
something that the F80 zone allows, then it would have to fall under something that is permitted, or they would be looking to do a similar use or something like that. But I have not investigated it.
okay. I don't have any strong comments or feelings, and I don't want to speak for the whole committee. I wish other people were here, about any of these energy source policies, because again, just like with the mining, we would want to make sure we relied on input from ODFW, ODF, whoever is the expert in what the impact of, say, a big wind turbine facility would do to the environment. So I guess that's my comment.
This is Leanne, Commissioner Thompson. That makes such good sense to me that kind of generally applied to all the policies is a committee recommendation. And Pam, I don't know if you're comfortable or staff just wants to hold it or disregard it. You're free to do any of that. But the idea that all of the relevant agencies that have a regulatory say on these issues should be consulted, that the neighbors should be consulted, and that the property rights laws be applied. I mean, that's just how I think of it in my experience as a planning commissioner and now a county commissioner, that's how we did things. And I don't know if that accurately summarizes a general point of view that makes sense to go forward with or not, but I offer it to support your work.
Thank you. Victoria, is that succinct enough for a comment for the energy source policies?
Yeah, I've made a note of both of your recommendations. So,
You know, I would like to see the county be a leader in the state on green energy projects, maybe to replace some timber jobs and some of the timber economy. I don't know that much about wind turbines, or if we get enough sun here to make large solar arrays, but I want to caution that we aren't too restrictive on those, and that we as a county are forward thinking in this climate change, that we are kind of leaders in moving to green energy sources.
That sort of sounds like an aspirational kind of goal.
Yes. And I don't know if there's a place in there in the comments for that, but yes, that is an aspirational goal, but I want to make sure any new policies aren't too prohibitive for startups that are trying to do some green energy projects.
yeah, we'll work that into the recommendations when we get through goal 5. Thanks, Pam.
Okay, thanks. All right, next one I have on this is the wetlands, and this is a big one. Wetlands have a lot of agencies that oversee them, including Army Corps of Engineers, correct?
Yeah, mostly we tend to work with the Department of State Lands with what's called wetland land use noticing, and we mainly allow them to have to mandate what needs to be done there. How we tend to treat it is through setbacks from riparian vegetation, or what we call non-aquatic vegetation. That is something that we have in the actual zoning ordinances.
Right.
So yeah, if we see a project that is within that setback and appears to be in the wetlands, then we will notice them.
Madam Chair, if I may ask a question, Leanne here.
Yes.
Thank you. It's the changeable nature of wetlands. I mean, on the one hand, we're hotter and drier. On the other hand, we have wilder storms than we used to. And so I was looking at this, trying to see how the changeable nature of wetlands, I understand that the standing water itself and the appropriately qualified vegetation plays a role in that, but how do people mesh property rights with the changeable nature of wetlands, because yes, we want to preserve the wetlands and wetlands change. I just don't understand enough to know how to do that.
Through some sort of an adaptive management policy. I know Oregon Department of Forestry working on their habitat conservation plan. I think you were on that call the other day, Leanne. They talked a lot about adaptive management.
And they're operating
that gets more
at the landscape level. And so here's the planning department that wants a document that says, here are the rules to apply to a particular, generally limited development request. I'm going to say, how do they apply a landscape? Because that's what the habitat conservation plan is looking at, to, you know what I mean, to generalize effectively. And so I think you're right that that's the forestry stuff is permeating this conversation in my mind too. I don't know how we guide staff with a policy that does that.
I think we protect as strongly as possible. Wetlands are some of the most valuable habitat on the planet. And with climate change and increasingly strong storms, wetlands provide so much flood protection. They're really important. I think every wetland, now this is a personal opinion and I obviously can't speak for the committee since I'm the only one here. Every wetland that we have right now should be protected. I am not a fan of mitigation. I have seen some pristine wetlands removed and the mitigation sites be very unproductive and not comparable to the original wetland. So I would like to see us, as much as we can, protect the existing wetlands.
So
and
if
then yes, go ahead.
Accept no inferior substitutes is the phrase that came to mind when you spoke regarding wetlands.
And that comes under the mitigation. Yes, inferiors. Yeah, that is the outcome of some mitigation, wetland mitigation projects. But there needs to be something in our plan, so this isn't just a snapshot in time, that does allow for some adaptive management. And I don't know if it would be probably a no, I don't know, some sort of an ability to come before the county and with some proof, like, look, my wetlands have dried up and now it's a meadow. So now can I build my house here? Julia or Victoria, can you put that into better words for me, please?
Well, actually, I was going to pop in and point out the county does not actually regulate wetlands. The Oregon Department of State Lands regulates wetlands. At this time, we notify the Oregon Department of State Lands if we have somebody who is making an application in an area that, or within a certain distance of an area that is identified on the statewide mapping, which shows the National Wetlands Inventory. It's the statewide wetlands inventory at this time. So it's really, the regulations are the Oregon Department of State Lands, and we are more notifying them. It doesn't mean that we, the county, don't have a role at this time, but it's not a regulatory one.
All right, so that's more an aspirational goal as far as protecting these. And again, like the others, leaning on the expertise of someone else. Now, I know when I was just looking at a piece of property for a customer in Deerheart, and so I was on Web Maps, and on Web Maps we have Gearhart wetlands. We have the National Inventory of Wetlands. There's several layers on there. And on this one piece of property, I found conflicting information from, I think it was the National Wetlands versus the city. How is that?
Well, it's
That should
entirely
be
possible.
clearer.
It's entirely possible that you have some overlapping issues. The statewide inventory, I mean, an inventory is just that. It's not a delineation. It's not down to the square inch. Now, some of the local wetlands inventories, and for example, there's one in South County, there's the Arch Cape Cove Beach area has a local wetland inventory, and it's a little bit more refined. I think it still is plus or minus 25 feet, if I recall. But that was something that was undertaken by agencies within that community. And then they provided that to the Oregon Department of State Lands, which then indicated to the county, they accepted it and indicated to the county that we should be using that as our layer. But the county did not adopt that, but the county uses it as an informational layer. So that's on web maps. But again, we would still look to the Oregon Department of State Lands for the regulatory aspect of it. Now, I do also want to make sure everybody understands there's a difference between the wetlands layers. See, in Gearhart, they have a local wetlands inventory. I mean, some of the cities do, and they have their own information. And of course, the county does not regulate within city limits, so that's not something that we would even look at. We're only looking at what's in the rural areas outside the city limits and outside the urban growth boundaries. But we have the layer, the information layer of the local inventories and the statewide inventory, but we also have a zone, and that's an adopted zone, and that is the lake and wetland zone, and that we do regulate. And a lot of people have a lot of difficulty understanding that they are not the same thing, and while they overlap, they also diverge. I mean, they're not exactly the same. They have different boundaries. So the lake and wetland zone, we do regulate because that's one of our zones. So that's an overlay, but not the wetlands layers. So I just want to throw that in there because that's probably just a little bit more confusing, and anything I can do to make it, worse, I will.
Thank you. I'm grateful that I'm not a property owner with wetlands and trying to decide how much of the property is wetlands or not, because there are several conflicting, layers and inventories. But again, from the county, from our charge on this group, and this may just be aspirational, but to really work with small districts like Arch Cape or Gearhart, to protect, to do whatever we can to protect those wetlands, even if they're small wetlands, that don't have the zoning overlay. Yeah, I'm not saying this very well, but aspirational would be to recognize the significant importance of wetlands of all sizes and do what we can to protect them. There's my aspirational goal. As far as these more specific, yes, please help me. I'm struggling.
Well, generally speaking, I agree with what you said. When you say all, that makes me nervous because there are some people who would look at a foot square area and say, "Ha, see." And so all is too much for me, and I don't know the right qualifying word. I'll just add that part. That's
well,
these
are somewhat aspirational because really the DSL has the regulatory power, and of course ODFW would weigh in on things. Okay, so that aspirational could be based on, protect all wetlands regardless of size, based on data or scientific input from qualified sources. Does that make you feel better, Leanne?
Actually, not so much. If you say all qualified sort, because I know folks who consider themselves qualified in a variety of
Well, I
areas.
mean, we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well,
You understand?
Victoria, how are we doing on this?
Yeah, you're doing just what we're supposed to do.
But I mean, how specific, if we're just talking right now about aspirational goals, how specific do we need to be in the language? Where I said all wetlands and Leanne's not comfortable using the term all. How much weight does an aspirational goal have? Do we need to drill it down to each and every word?
So as you can, if you read through the goals and policies, some are super vague and some are very specific. Like Leanne mentioned, the site-specific ones. And then, so you have, for instance, like policy 1 under natural areas, significant areas and scenic sites should be set aside for preservation. And then you have policy 4,
In what order?
super
Yeah.
specific, the
Yeah.
natural designation for Sugarloaf Mountain, yada, yada. So, you know, this is going to be something that we'll be working on for, I mean, this round for the next 3 months. And then it's going to, all of this is going to be reviewed by multiple people, and, you know, public comment is going to be opened up, and it's going to be approved by the boards and all of that. So at this point, we're really just trying to get an idea of what is relevant in the present, what is no longer relevant to what we're trying to do or what is happening here, and then there's the aspirational goals, like what do we want to see moving forward. We can aspire to have any sort of goal. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be honored and carried out, but everybody can
Okay.
aspire to something, right? And
Yeah.
you're the people who are on the committee, so this is the public input that we have now. So you're the ones who are driving the ship, and you may not necessarily speak for everybody, but everyone has the opportunity to be here, and this is who's here now.
Okay. Looking at the clock, I'm going to have to get off of this call. So can we table the rest of this and maybe work on establishing another meeting date, and hopefully we'll get more people?
Yeah, it's really up to you how we want to move forward with the meeting. So if you would like to move on to the next agenda item, you're free to do so.
I have to for my own time frame here. You did the doodle poll for meeting times. What was the general consensus?
So it looks like most people voted for 19th, 20th, and 21st. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Leanne, looks like the Thursday works for you. I left it open to say all day and asked for people to comment on specific times below. So the only outlier I have is Diane. She said the 17th, which is a Monday. But it does look like the majority of people are good with a Thursday meeting. That's the way it looks to me, but I would like your feedback. And then Connie specified that because she works at 1:30, she would like it to be between 10 and noon. So I'll leave that decision up to you. And yeah, that's everyone who answered.
Monday or Thursday, 10 a.m. is fine with me. Leanne, does a Thursday at 10 work?
Thursday works at 10, Monday works at 10, if that's what Diane can do. Stuff comes in, and so, you know, so Monday the 17th works, and Thursday the 20th also works. I'm flexible, Madam Chair.
All right. Victoria, I'm sorry, which one did Diane say was better for her?
She said anytime the 17th, which is Monday.
All right, well, let's do that. Have we heard from Brady at all?
He sent me an email a couple weeks ago, but I haven't heard from him since. I did call and leave him a voicemail today. So.
Okay. All right, well, let's go Monday the 17th. Now, are we establishing, the agenda says a regular meeting time and date. So are we saying Mondays at 10 a.m.? I mean, it would be nice to know that that's when our meetings are. Or should we go month by month?
So what we've been trying to do is to give people plenty of notice for when these meetings are happening. I know we talked about sending out a big mailer with all of these meetings scheduled ahead of time so that the public, you know, knows when to tune in. So we would like to schedule a regular meeting. So this would be the third Monday of the month at 10 a.m. on a regular basis, or the third Thursday of the month, whatever the consensus is. I mean, it can change, but ideally we would like to be able to have it locked down.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I think the third Thursday of the month works best. For those who work, it seems like Monday mornings are always Monday mornings. You know, and if you're just getting there and logging in and you have 100 emails in your inbox, you can't really bail out at 10 a.m. to go on to this. So I'm thinking going forward, Thursdays at 10 might be better for those who work. Does that sound reasonable?
Does to me, but you know, I bow to the committee's will and will do what I can.
No, I'm the only one here right now. I don't want to be a dictator, but my personal opinion is Thursdays at 10 a.m. are probably better than Mondays.
Yeah, and just per the doodle poll, that is the most popular date. So it's, yeah, using that data.
All right, let's do that. I motion that we have, there's nobody even to second this, but that our regular meeting date be the third Thursday of each month at 10 a.m.
All right, you know what occurs to me? I'm a trustee on the Episcopal Diocese of Oregon, and third Thursday, I had to look on my personal calendar because I don't have it on my work calendar, but on my personal calendar, that's why the third Thursday I was iffy on. But you know, as I said, one monkey don't stop the show. So I have to count on my fingers to get here. So September is the 17th, right? So August and September work. So maybe, no, it's the 4th. Sorry, it's the 4th. I have to be church lady on the 4th of the month. Third works fine. Please forgive me as I struggle.
Okay, good.
Yeah, thank you.
So then our next meeting would be August 20th. Is that correct?
Well, unless you want to.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, just per our discussion, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just if you wanted to give Diane a chance to come. So just saying. But if you want it, then
We can go this next one to Monday, but if we are trying to establish
I get it.
a regular, so the mailer can go out, so the public isn't
Yep.
wondering month to month.
I get it. One monkey don't stop the show. That's the rule. So, yep, third Thursday is August 17th. Makes sense.
It'll be
Third
August
Thursday is
20th and
20th.
September 17th. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I think that's it on this end. I know I have to get going. Any closing comments from anybody? I mean, I'll make the motion, our regular meeting date to be 10 a.m. the third Thursday of each month. And I guess, do I second my own motion?
I don't know that I'm empowered to do that. I would agree with you if that has any weight in
Okay.
this.
Thank you. Okay. So I am ready to adjourn the meeting unless there's any other comments.
No, ma'am. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Meeting is adjourned at